recording, right? Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Intan Sharina. Italy. Italy is a place of wonder for its architectural structure, marvelous arts, and also its local food. Wait. Where's the next slide? Oh my god. Where's the next slide? Oh, the next slide is about architecture features in Italy. Okay. Visitors are attracted to visit Italy not only because of its beautiful cities, but also their historical monuments. Their architecture structure that was developed in Italy is a marvelous masterpiece that was developed all the way back to the ancient Roman times. The period of Renaissance also had a big impact to the Italy architecture. And the Italians were obsessed with maintaining their classical architecture style where it involved the principle of symmetry, order, elegance, and also refinement. The first ever architecture style in Italy is classical architecture style. So back in the old days, the Romans not only managed to build a massive empire, but also a building that had the perfect cuts of every piece. Even though this architecture style began with the Greeks, but it was the Romans who made it famous by using their own techniques. But they had to educate themselves on the building materials, which lead them into producing a great infrastructure. And the first example of classical architecture monuments is the famous Colosseum. Okay, so as you can see in the picture, the Colosseum is actually an amphitheater for games such as gladiatorial combats and wild animal fights in the AD 80. But unfortunately, in the 6th century AD, gladiatorial combats were stopped. Also, the Colosseum was damaged due to the natural phenomena, and it was then abandoned by the Romans. In the 20th century, 2/3 of the Colosseum was damaged. But in 1990, the Romans began restoration efforts for the Colosseum. And thanks to their efforts, Colosseum is now one of the popular tourists in Italy. And today, Colosseum was awarded as one of the 7 wonders of the world. Isn't it like amazing? So, the most prominent features of the Colosseum are the columns and arches. The first story is decorated with Tuscan Order's column. The second story is with Ionians, and the third story is with the Carthian-style columns, while the fourth story of the Colosseum is mainly decorated with pilasters and Carthian capitals. While the lowest 3 stories have abandoned arches, the fourth story actually lacks of them because instead they features with small windows. So, is that it all for the... okay, so for the next architecture is classical architecture style. Beside classical architecture style, there is one architecture style that is almost identical with the classical architecture style, which is neoclassical. So neoclassical, an example of neoclassical is actually Palazzo Grassi. Palazzo Grassi is the last palace that was built in the Grand Canal before the fall of Venetian Republic. And fun fact, it was built between 1747 and 1772 by an architect called Giorgio Massari. So in this area, 1840, the Grassi family sold the palace, and it was passed through hands of several owners before it became the International Center of Arts and Costume in the 1951. So, In 2009, Japanese architect Tadao Ando worked his magic into transforming the interior of the palace garden into Kavaka's 220-seat concrete auditorium that now hosts concert, conferences, and even film projection. Now, I would like to explain about Romanesque architecture style. Okay, so where are my other cue cards? Oh my god, where? Okay. Oh yeah. Oh my god, I thought I lost them. Oh my god, where did I stop? Okay, so for Romanesque architecture style, it was actually influenced by the European architecture. This style of architecture focuses on the monument's width and horizontal lines instead of its height. And for church, the bell tower and the baptistry were built outside of the church. The first example of Romanesque architecture style is Pisa. The Italians call it Torre Pedate di Pisa, which means Leaning Tower of Pisa, and it acted as a bell tower during the ancient history. And the Pisa is recognized by its tilt structure. Tilt? I mean, what made the building tilt? This monument is recognized as one of the world's most recognizable architectural landmarks. The Tower of Pisa is a wonder not just because of its leaning structure, but also of how sturdy the tower is even till today. And back in the old days, the Pisa was an independent ridge threading port. It consisted of 8 stories, which include the bell chamber, and with total of 7 bells. Each one of the bells were installed with notes of musical skill. The Italians were marvelous in terms of architecture, but little did they know the ground they stood on. The ground underneath Pisa city surface is actually composed of clay, mud, and wet sand. The tower architect believed that only 3 meters of the foundation was enough for their short structure. But unfortunately, 2 years after the ongoing monument started to sink, the architecture decided to stop building it for the time being to figure out how to fix the problem. And it is believed that hundreds of architects tried to solve the tower's overriding structure, but unfortunately, none of them are able to make it because every single one of them just make it worse. But finally, in 1992, the architects came up with a fantastic idea was to remove a huge amount of soil underneath the Pisa tower, and they tried their best to straighten the tower by using a type of cable. More than 6 centuries of construction, the Pisa tower was finally straightened by only having a tilt of 4 degrees. And next is Gothic architecture style that is also included in architecture style of Italy. Okay. But unfortunately, Italians did not fully like this Gothic style because of its verticality, flying buttresses, grotesque gargoyles. Let me just Google translate this.
Gargoyles.
Okay. But the Italians did not like it because of these grotesque gargoyles and over-the-top decoration. And the local version was generally much more restrained, such as Milan's flamboyant Duomo, also called as Milan's Cathedral. And it is also known as the finest and the largest Gothic building in Italy, which took 600 years to build. 600 years. And it includes many types of architectural influences. So, Gothic architecture style that I can show you is Milan Cathedral or Duomo di Milano. So, The cathedral was originally going to be built from a terracotta brick, but the material was changed to marble early in the construction process because the facade of the marble is pink, white, and grey. So the Gothic roofline is famous for its dense grid of pinnacles and spires supported by flying buttresses. And the cathedral contains over 60 gargoyles and about 3,400 statues. So the cathedral, 5 broad naves divided by 40 pillars, and it's reflected in the hierarchic opening of the facade. Even the transepts have aisles. The nave column have 24.5 meters height, and the apsidal window are 20.7 meters, 20.7 by 8.5 meters, and the huge building of the construction faced with marble from the quarries, which giant Galazzo Visconti donate in perpetuity to the cathedral chapter. So the maintenance and the repairs are really complicated. We also have the facade architecture style, which includes I've seen this picture before. Oh my god, I think Amira posted a picture of her visiting these monuments. Where should I call Amira? Hi Amira, what are you doing? Are you busy right now?
Hey Intan, no, I'm not busy. I just finished working on my assignments. Ya Allah, thankfully I managed to finish them on time.
Good for you, Amira. Hey, I wanted to ask you. I saw you upload a picture on Instagram at Galleria Umberto, right? What are you doing there?
Oh yeah, I went there with my family for a short vacation. We went there literally before COVID-19 struck. We had so much fun.
Oh my god, thankfully you managed to come back safely. So I believe you know a lot about Galleria Umberto, right? Can you share some information that you know with me?
Yeah, sure, of course. So, the Galleria Umberto I is a part of Fascist...
No, Amira, it's actually fascist.
So, the Galleria Umberto is a part of fascist architecture style which was inspired from European modernism to create a style that combines classical ideals and the futurist fantasies of the industrial age. It is the beginning of industrial innovations in glass and metal to building design.
Oh, that's interesting. I heard Galleria Umberto have a shopping mall, right? Is it?
Yes, Intan, you are correct. Galleria Umberto I is a public shopping gallery in Naples, southern Italy. It was meant to combine businesses, shops, cafes, and social life, which meant it is a public space, but it also has a private space in the apartments on the 3rd floor. It has returned to being an active center of Neapolitan civic life after years of decay. It was basically dying. The Galleria is a high and spacious cross-shaped structure surrounded by a glass dome braced by 16 metal ribs. The gallery is elegantly decorated with murals and sculptures. Fun fact, there is another Galleria that is built with the same architecture style, which is Galleria Vittorio Emanuele II. It is Italy's oldest active shopping mall and a major landmark in Milan. It has many shops and importance as a common Milanese meeting and dining place. The Galleria is famous for being home to some of the oldest shops and restaurants in Milan, such as Biffy Cafe and the Sabini restaurant. These are both founded and opened since the late 1880s. I actually visited Sabini restaurant and it looks so elegant. I also wanted to go to Biffy Cafe, but there were too many people there, so I couldn't go. Oh my gosh.
Oh, wait, Amira. I did some research and I found out that it has to do something about McDonald's. So McDonald's relating to Galleria. Do you know anything about it, Amira?
Yeah, I do actually. Back in 2012, a McDonald's was prevented from renewing its tenancy after 20 years of occupancy. The restaurant contended that it was the only tenant to be denied the right of first refusal on its new lease. and that the public tender to replace it was unfair. McDonald's sued the landlord, which was the city of Milan, for 24 million euros in damages, alleging that the loss of the lease will deprive McDonald's of 6 million euros per year in sales. During its last few hours of operation, the restaurant also offered free food and drinks to over 5,000 customers. Oh my god, isn't that cool?
Wait, for free?
Oh my gosh, yes, for free. Then, the McDonald's restaurant was replaced with the gallery's second product store. McDonald's renounced its suit against the city of Milan after receiving the opportunity to open a new restaurant in a nearby area.
Whoa, I did not expect McDonald's would do that.
I know, right? Hey, by the way, Intan, have you seen the latest video on MLG1204A YouTube channel? Adani is super cute. I like her outfit a lot and her hijab is absolutely on point.
What? Really? I haven't watched it yet. I'm definitely going to watch it now. Talk to you later, Amira. Bye. Bye.
Hey everyone! So, before I start this video, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe and notification button down below to join the small little community of ours. So for this week's episode of Weekly Food Global, we will be exploring the Italian culture. Yes, a lot of you have been commenting and suggesting for me to do Italy, let's do Italy next. So I've decided to follow along and do Italy for this week's Weekly Food Global. When we think about Italy, the things that would pop out into our minds would be the rich culture, arts, history, and many more. However, that is not what we're going to be exploring today. As the series is called Weekly Food Global, we will be exploring Italian cuisine and everything amazing behind it. I will also be making Gigi Hadid's very own infamous pasta, but the halal version, since it is so trendy nowadays. However, before I buy the main ingredients at the grocery store later, I'm going to stop by Starbucks to get myself a little coffee to start today's adventure. Stay tuned! Hi guys, so I've just arrived at Starbucks, so now let's go in. So here it is guys, my favorite drink of all time to start today's adventure. Speaking of drinks, why not we start today's adventure with a little bit about Italian drinks, right? So, when you think of coffee, what would be the first thing that would pop into your mind? Because for me, honestly, it would be the term espresso, since it is a term that is really closely related to coffee, but it's also closely related to the Italian culture, since it does originate from Italy. So espresso is not actually a type of bean, but rather a process or technique extracting flavor from ground coffee bean. The word espresso actually comes from the word esprimere, which means to press out or to express. And this technique was invented by Luigi Bezzera around the 1900s. He filed a patent for a machine that forces boiling water and steam to go through a coffee grind into a cup. So this machine was actually the first espresso coffee machine that was exhibited at the Milan International Fair in 1906. If you think about it, that was such a long time ago. So it's amazing how this process or technique still sticks around till this day and is used worldwide. Amazing, right? And the love of espresso comes from the flavor and not only the taste but also the scent. And I just love coffee. Oh, another thing, something that is crucial and cannot be forgotten when talking about Italian drinks would of course be their alcoholic beverages. Italians usually drink these beverages along with their meals, and one of the most common drinks would be their wine, such as Prosecco. In the past, the grape used to make Prosecco was actually called both Prosecco and Glera, and this grape's moderately high acidity actually makes it a shoe-in for sparkling wine. This base wine is then applied to a pressure tank, then the addition of yeast and sugar induces a second fermentation. Through this process, Glera's scent and freshness is actually preserved, which is why it is such a popular and common drink amongst Italians. Now that we've done a bit of exploring about Italian drinks, I'm gonna go through our plan for today and I'm going to go grocery shopping. So let's go! Alright guys, now back to our plan. Buying the ingredients for today's menu, the in-trend Gigi Hadid pasta, but we're making it halal, of course. While we're getting the ingredients for today's dish, let me share a little bit about the most common ingredients found in Italian cuisines. One of the important ingredient is basil. Basil is a fragrant green herb with a smoky, minty taste and the most popular herb in Italian cooking. It originated from India and was brought to Italy via the spice route during ancient times. There are two main varieties of basil, sweet basil and Thai basil. Sweet basil is most often used in Italian cuisine and Thai basil in Asian cuisine. It is used in countless Italian dishes, perhaps most famously in the caprese salad. Its antibacterial properties also bring health benefits to the table. Even though basil faced a lot of symbolism crisis over the years, it later became embraced as a symbol of love. During the Victorian era, sweet basil conveyed good wishes to the receiver. In Italy, a man who accepted basil from a woman was destined to marry her. Lastly, the important ingredient in Italian cuisine is Italian cheese. Ancient Romans created varieties of cheese by aging and smoking them. Hard cheeses have a grainy texture and are shaved over salads or grated over pasta. Soft cheese, like mozzarella, is used to melt over meals like lasagna and pizza. Back then, every household in the countryside produced cheese. The farmers would very rarely kill sheep, goats, and cows as they were invaluable patrimony for them. So they would take advantage of their virtually endless milk production. However, milk was barely consumed as such and was almost entirely used to make cheese, which was a nutritious, cheap, and easily available source of protein. Hence, the reason there is so much cheese and the use of cheese is so common in Italy. Yay! So we've got all the ingredients that we need for today, so let's start cooking. Just like any other pasta meals, this pasta uses a lot of soak techniques. Do you want to know more about Italian cooking techniques? Well, join me while I'm cooking and I'll tell you all about it. Techniques usually get their name from the region it originated from the action of the technique, or from the history. There are a lot of common cooking techniques in Italian culture. One of them is cucina povera, which translated turns into peasant cooking or poor man's food. Some Italian food mostly relies on making the most out of very little. The cucina povera cooking method is basically making a soup out of anything. One of the most popular cuisines that use this technique is ribollita. Ribollita has its root in the peasantry, having been eaten by servants made from leftovers, traditionally considered as cucina povera or poor man's food. Servants would collect the unfinished leftovers from their masters and boil the different ingredients to make a hearty, filling meal. Despite being a peasant food back in the day, this cooking technique is used until now with more variation with the ingredients. Hey guys, so I'm currently taking a short break right now, and during this short break, I'll be explaining to you about the second Italian cooking technique that I found, which is al forno. Al forno means in the oven, and if you're familiar with any Italian food related shows, you might have noticed a typical oven used in all Italian restaurants. These ovens are usually brick lined with an arch opening or arch door. I'm going to show a picture here for reference, and they also have a wooden board with a long handle that is used to place food in the center of the oven. Interesting, right? And traditionally baked food like lasagna or pizza are usually baked at home. However, they will take these meals to the bakery for a final baking. And even though electric ovens are so common nowadays, this traditional wooden oven and open flame grill is widely used because they want to cook dishes al forno. Italy does not only have interesting cooking techniques, but they also have unique food technology for their food. The most interesting one to me is the Parma ham. Parma ham is dry cured meat. It is used to make prosciutto, or also known as prosciutto di Parma. The production of this food has maintained its traditional procedure since the Roman Empire, along with modern machinery. The process starts with cutting the rear pig legs into its signature shape. The legs are then pressed to drain blood out and sealed at the start of curing day. What I find unique about this Parma ham is that the preservation only uses salt as the preservative. This is pretty common in Malaysia, but with fish. For me, preserving meat with salt is quite surprising. With a similar function, the salt is used to remove excess water and begin the dry cure process. The ham is later stored in a refrigerator room for a week before it will be salted for the second time and refrigerated for another 15 days. The meat will then be hung in a cellar room for 80 days and greased with a mixture of lard, salt, and pepper to prevent it from drying, and they continue to hang it in a cellar room. It usually takes 1 to 3 years from curing day before it is ready to be sold. Whoa, look at that. I wouldn't say that I'm a great cook, but that actually does look appetizing. Let's dig in. Oh, that's way too hot. Okay, so while we're waiting for this to cool off for a bit, I want to tell you guys something. I'm pretty sure that most of you guys believe that pasta actually was brought to Italy from China by a traveler named Marco Polo. But that was actually what the legends claimed. The truth is that the Etruscan tomb once showed a group of natives who were making what appears to be pasta. Technically, pasta already long existed in Italy before Polo's travels, unlike the rumors. Okay, let's bring this down here. Okay, so now that was some historical facts. How about their traditional food? Well, their most famous traditional food is called tortellini. It's like dumplings served in broth with some Italian seasonings from Emilia-Romagna. Do you guys know that the alternative name is actually belly button? Yes, you heard that correctly. Let me share with you the story behind that. One day, a girl named Venus stayed in an inn, and the innkeeper was overwhelmed by her beauty. So he spied on her through the keyhole and could only see her navel, to which he was inspired to create pasta in that shape. Weird story, I know, but I'm sure it is just as delicious. Here you go. I'm already drooling, so I'll have a bite of my pasta. Not to be weird or anything, but I could be a chef. Pardon me, I took a short break and I finished the whole thing. I am so full now. Oh my god. Anyways, where were we at? Did I talk about pizza yet? Do you guys know about pizza blanca or focaccia? Well, after much research, I found out that it is actually a flat oven baked bread similar to pizza but way sweeter. And it's also served during Epiphany, which is the 12th day of Christmas. That is a huge celebration in Italy. And there's also a common tradition with this dish, which is a fava bean is placed inside when baking, and whoever finds it when eating will actually have good fortune throughout the year. That's really interesting. Now, let's talk about other Italian holiday cuisines. For example, have you guys heard of Carnival? It's one of the biggest winter festivals in Italy. For instance, chiacchiere di carnival, which are ribbons of fried dough with icing sugar, a perfect combination with Italian coffee. Now, talking about coffee, I missed the espresso this morning. What else? Easter. Italians eat a lot of dessert on Easter, but there's one special dish that caught my attention and is a bit bizarre but interesting at the same time. It's called sanguinaccio dolce, sorry, pardon my pronunciation, which is what the Americans actually call blood sausage and the British call black pudding. But it's made from pig's blood and chocolate, and it's real pig's blood. This dish is also eaten during Carnival, since the celebration is 40 days before Easter, in which during these days is called Lent, and there is supposed to be no meat consumption at all. Though this southern Italian dish was once widely adored, the delicacy is now difficult to find due to the short shelf life of pig blood. Younger generations also find pig blood a waste of product since they are unfamiliar with family farms. Nowadays, many use butter or cornstarch to mimic the creamy texture, but those who remember sanguinaccio dolce know that bloodless can only be satisfied by the real ingredient. Whew, I think the pasta has finally gone down into my stomach and starting to process, which means there's finally room for dessert. I mean, there's always room for dessert, but yeah. Okay, so fun fact numero uno, Italians don't actually eat dessert after a meal, which I'm about to do, but I think that's completely fine since I am not Italian, so please forgive me. I need my dessert. Even though I'm doing this weekly Food Global, I still need my dessert. So yeah, I'm about to do it right now. And they actually serve desserts during special occasions, which is why most of the dishes that I've explained to you previously are served during festivals or special occasions. Yeah, and let's make my dessert right now. However, I completely forgot to mention that Italy's most famous desserts are actually confections and custards. So confections are basically chocolate and nuts. So fun fact numero due, did you know that Nutella actually comes from Italy? Yes, it was invented by a pastry maker from Piedmont named Pietro Ferrero, who later then invented the chocolate Ferrero Rocher in the 1940s. So Nutella is pretty significant for Italians as back then sugar and cocoa were super expensive for them. Another type of Italian confections is actually Tarone, which is nuts, but it's more special due to its various combinations of honey, egg whites, and nuts. Wait a second, the name of the Swedish chocolate Toblerone is from a combination of the founder's name, Tobler, and Tarone. Here you go. Toblerone. My god, I love chocolate. This is one of my favorite chocolates ever. And oh my god, my love of chocolate nearly made me forget about custards. I almost forgot. Of course, the most famous dessert from Italy is tiramisu. It's amazing how this coffee flavored dessert's name means cheer me up. Yes, it was actually made to cheer Duke Cosimo de' Medici in 1521. And that's how it's now known worldwide. The more you know. Unfortunately, that is all for today's episode, and yeah, I could go to Italy myself and experience all these food and cuisines, and yeah, I just hope that COVID-19 will end soon so that I can travel again and explore different people's culture. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and please comment down below what you want to see next, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Also, if you guys didn't notice, I had an Easter egg this whole time throughout the video. I don't know if you noticed, but my hair clips are actually the color of the Italian flag. And yeah, that is all for today. Thank you. See you guys next week.
I'm serious. If they were to
Hi guys! Welcome back to our live session. My name is Chara. My name is Atika. And today we're just going to talk with you guys since we're still pretty tired and jet lagged from our trip from Italy the other day. So yeah, let's just talk.
Since we're LG1204 students, we had to go to Italy for our intercultural project to discover Italy cultures like fashion, visual arts, and also their performing arts. Oh, hi Sophia. Can you guys tell us about it? Yeah, sure. Okay, some of you may not know that fashion in Italy is their identity apart from the food. As the famous saying goes, speak English, kiss French, drive German, and dress Italian. Italy is known as the most fashionable country in the world, and the third biggest industry in Italy is fashion. Italy became the most fashionable city in Europe starting from the 11th century, and since they birthed the Renaissance in the 14th century, Italian fashion design became very popular. Italian fashion was also influenced by Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and also Raphael in the 15th and the 16th century. So, well, back in the day, the way that they used to dress evolved from how simpler peasants dressed in the Middle Ages. Oh yeah, that's right. Furthermore, the difference between the wealthy does not only differ from the way that they dress, but also the fabrics that they use. Peasants' clothes commonly use wool, whereas wealthy people would wear fabrics like silk and velvet. Lower class people unfortunately did not have too many options in the variety of color, for their clothing, as their selection was only limited to inexpensive black and grey dyes. And wealthy people had numerous options as they have more variety of color dyes. So Atika?
The way that they dressed was to look wealthy, to look classy, beautiful, and of course to look fashionable. The way to describe and define what these women wore to dress was fullness. This is because they would always make their top as tight as possible and their waist as the tiniest part of their body. And the bottom part of their dresses had to be full of extravagant layers of skirts, while men wore clothes that are more simple and are more fitted to accentuate their body shape. Therefore, we can see that the way they dressed was not because of comfort or convenience, but to look the best of the best. Unfortunately, in the 17th century, Italy had a great downfall in their economy, and the fashion industry in Italy experienced a decline, making Spain, England, France, leading the fashion industry. And during the time, fashion industry in France was leading in Europe. But now, as we are living in the modern era, fashion in Italy does not categorize based on class only, but it is to express ourselves and our growth as someone who is very carefree. Okay.
Oh, that was a good question, Harith. So, as I mentioned before, fashion was influenced by Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and Raphael during the 15th and 16th century. This is because Italy has one of the most famous visual arts cultures around the world. There's even a common saying in Italy which goes ars longa vita brevis, meaning art is long, life is short. It goes to show how Italians love and embrace art as the pride of their culture. With famous artists and icons like Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and Raphael, there's no doubt that visual arts are an interesting aspect to look at. So, before art evolved, Italian paintings were characterized by spiritual iconography, flat composition, and realistic color palettes, even otherworldly figures. However, in the 1300s, artists in Florence abandoned this aesthetic and developed a more humanist approach to art. This is when the art in Renaissance or Rinascimento started. Atika?
This new approach in painting uses a technique called sfumato, where it creates a realistic images of people, like in the Mona Lisa, a creation by Leonardo da Vinci, where he used bold outlines for soft, blurred edges and realistic shadows. An example of paintings that has religious elements in them is Madonna of the Goldfinch by Raphael, where he portrays the Virgin Mary, Jesus, and John the Baptist in human form to make the Holy Family more realistic and relatable. Apart from that, Michelangelo has also painted religious iconography on the ceilings of the Sistine Chapel between 1508 and 1512, and it has remained iconic till this day. Even though Italian painters and artists dominated the art scene in Europe for 400 years continuously, with the rise of nationalism and unification of Italy, this primacy ended abruptly. At the end of the 19th century, leading into the 20th century, Italian modern artists introduced a new art concept. First being Futurism, which glorified the power, speed, and excitement that characterized the machine age. Secondly, metaphysical art. Metaphysical art depicted a dreamlike imagery with figures and objects seemingly frozen in time. Lastly, art povera, which combines aspects of conceptual, minimalist, and performance arts.
Oh, Shara, do you remember that time that we went to watch an opera show?
Oh yeah, we can't talk about Italy without mentioning
Yes,
its
exactly.
performing arts. So to be precise, opera. So Italy is the birthplace of opera with various of renowned Italian composers like Paganini, Rossini, Donizetti, and Verdi. So their work of art inspired a lot of composers even in today's world. Not only that, some of the operas composed in past generations are also still being played till this day. It is one of the reasons why tourists would go to Italy, like us, just to experience being in an opera theater. It is truly breathtaking.
There are actually a lot of famous opera that came from Italy. However, Daphne by Jacopo Peri was the earliest work that is considered as opera. It was written around the year 1600 under the inspiration of Camerata de Bardi, also known as Florentine Camerata. Camerata de Bardi is a group of musicians, poets, and intellectuals in late Renaissance Florence. They are a bunch of who gathered under the patronage of Count Giovanni de Bardi to discuss and guide trends in the arts, especially music and drama. Meanwhile, during the Baroque era, opera was divided in two different types, opera seria and opera buffa. Opera seria is a musical term in Italy that refers to dramatic or tragic subject that predominated in Europe from the 1710s to about 1770. Opera seria wasn't only produced in Italy, but also almost throughout Europe and beyond, such as Latin America. Meanwhile, for opera buffa, it focuses more on the comedy side. It was first used as an informal description of Italian comic operas. In 1637, opera was performed at a public theatre in Venice for the first time ever. By the Baroque era, 1600 to 1750, opera had taken Europe by storm. So yeah guys, that's the end of our live session today. It's pretty simple, but I hope you guys had fun, even though we're pretty tired.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, Hafsa, yeah, we're so happy that you guys get to know more about Italian's culture because we are so happy to share it with you guys. So, yeah, that's all for us. Thank you for watching this live session.
Bye guys, take care.
Kita